Hey, I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff, and a couple of years ago, I completely ripped out this kitchen. We completely ripped it out, and we rebuilt brand new cabinets, put in a giant island, moved walls, added lots of lights, and it's been almost done, except for that. Or actually, the fact that there's nothing there is the problem. We don't have a light over our kitchen table. We've bought some and returned them because they were too big or too small or too bright, or they didn't look good in front of the windows. I'm done with it. So today, we're just gonna make one. So here's the actual problem for this space. This is our kitchen table. This is where my family eats all of our meals together. We play cards. We do a lot of stuff at this table, and we want this space. We want to enjoy it, but it's actually kind of hard to do without a light over top of it. We've got a really ugly old lamp that's been kind of working, but now that the sun goes down earlier, it gets dark in here at like 5:30, so we need to fix this. Like I said before, we've bought a few lights and tried them in this space and held them up, but they just weren't right. Now the good thing about that is it actually helped me build a list of the things that we need in a light fixture, so I can use that list to design one that will work in this space. So what are the actual needs of the table? Well, one, it's really long and kind of skinny. It's 3 feet by 7 feet. So it's definitely a rectangle, not a square, which means that the light fixture kind of needs to follow the length of the table to spread light across the entire thing. The other thing is that it's in a corner with these two wonderful big windows that I love, but the problem with the windows is that it's visually a lot of background noise. So if the light fixture doesn't have enough body to be visible, it gets completely lost by all the stuff that's in the background. Here's what I actually want to try to work into this light. It needs to be kind of the format of the table, a little bit long, not too tall. It's gonna be hanging in front of the window, so I wanted to have a little body to it so you can actually see it, but also let a little bit of light out through the sides. But mainly I want the light to go down onto the table and up onto the ceiling so it'll reflect off the white and fill the space. Past that, probably we'll make it out of wood because we don't have a whole lot of wood grain in here. There's a lot of white cabinets and everything, so we need some kind of light wood up there. I also want to make it out of something that I actually have access to and won't be too heavy because it's going to be so big. But I think I have a plan, so let's head to Fusion and I'll show you what I'm thinking about. I started out with a paper sketch. I've got these little ribs and I'm not exactly sure on the shape yet, but I think if you stack those ribs up around some sort of a structure, you can make a shade. I've seen desk lamps like this before that are all laser cut. So I think doing a similar thing on a really big scale that hangs around light bulbs from the ceiling will probably make for a pretty cool lamp. I tried a bunch of different shapes, but I ended up on this one, and this is gonna act as the outside profile of the light, and I'll cut pieces that are this size and then wrap them around a structure. But that structure is over 3 feet long, and that little rib is 1/2 inch plywood, maybe 1/4 inch plywood, which either way means we're gonna need a lot of them. So there's a ring at the top and the bottom, so each one of the ribs can mount on both of those to hold the structure, but there's 140 ribs. But there's one more thing that I didn't actually tell you I want this to do. I want it to look interesting from different angles. So rather than having all these ribs perpendicular to the rings that are holding them so that they all look like this, I've taken every rib and twisted it and tilted it. So everything is leaning on 2 axes. That way when you walk around the room, these 2 shapes are gonna constantly be moving like this, and so the light that comes through them is gonna look a little bit different. There's actually 2 parts to this project, and the second one is the big shade. We're gonna get to that later on because I'm not exactly sure if it's gonna work, but the first thing is the actual light. Now the actual light fixture on the inside of this thing is kind of a rough idea in my head. It's not very specific. I know that I have a pipe that's gonna come down from the box in the ceiling. It's gonna attach to some sort of a bar that goes across and then has 3 globe lights hanging from the bottom of it. Well, rather than try to make those globe lights, I'm just gonna buy 3 lights that already have everything in them and I can attach them to some sort of a bar. But I really didn't know what that bar was gonna be. Well, luckily, I'm a little bit of a material hoarder, and so I found this. I have no idea where I got this. I have no idea what it's from. It's still got a sticker on it from something, but I think it's gonna be perfect. And the reason I think it's gonna be perfect is because I need something that can connect to a tube coming from the ceiling. I need something that can house a bunch of wiring that splits into 3 lights and then hold 3 lights that are attached to the bottom of it. Well, this thing is basically like a channel. It's square tubing with no top. So if I weld on a little top section here, that can connect up. If I drill holes in the bottom of it, that can connect down, and it's a perfect channel where I can run all the wiring through. Plus, I can easily cover up the top of this to keep dust out of it, and it's thin enough metal that I can cut it, but thick enough metal that it's strong. So the plan is basically just to cut this down to length, but leave a little extra section so I can box it in again, drill some holes, and I should be good to go. now it looks exactly like it did before, except it's this much shorter, and this piece can actually be cut down to become the cap that goes on top. That way, when I mount my pole to the ceiling, it can come down and go into a hole that I'll drill right here, and then I'll have the beginnings of a light fixture. Here it is. I gotta paint it black, and I also have to put a hole for the down tube, and then 3 holes in the bottom to mount the lights, but unfortunately, all of those parts are not here yet, so we're gonna move on to the shade. Now, before I go cutting 140 some odd pieces of wood on the laser, I need to prove that this thing's gonna work. So instead of doing the big oval, we're actually just gonna cut kind of the corner of it, one little section, cut a few pieces on the laser just to make sure that everything fits together, and the Fusion model does exactly what I think it will. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, for me personally, the last couple of years have been difficult. They may have been difficult for you too, and it's okay to not be okay all the time, but if that's the case, you can talk to somebody and actually get help. That's why therapy can be hugely important in your life, and I saw that because my mom was a marriage and family therapist while I was growing up. Getting therapy can be difficult. It's hard to find a therapist. It's hard to schedule therapy. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Essentially, you go to the website, you fill out a little questionnaire about your specific needs, and they will match you up with a licensed therapist in about 48 hours. After that, you can work with that therapist in whatever way works with your schedule and with your preference. And after working with them for a while, if you find it's not a good fit, you can change therapist at no charge. BetterHelp has a network of 30,000 licensed therapists. If you want to find out more, you can go to BetterHelp, that's HELP.com/ILTMS. And using that URL will give you 10% off your first month of therapy. Be sure to go check it out. You've got people in your life that love you, that need you, and it's okay for you to invest in yourself and get help when you need it. Big thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Well, it's a good thing I did those tests because my idea did not really work out like I wanted it to. I mean, it kind of worked, but it just didn't look as good as it should. I definitely have a lot I need to fix. I spent a lot of time cutting a bunch of pieces just trying to get the fit right so all the pieces would actually stay together without glue, even though they will be glued. And once I finally got a working kind of prototype of the corner, I realized that all the pieces are too thin and they're too far apart and you can just like see way too much. I ended up spending the entire afternoon modifying the model, making it better. Each one of the ribs is now a little bit thicker, they're closer together, and I changed how they grab the top and the bottom rings. So now, without glue, they actually hold together pretty well. So this was kind of a waste. I mean, from one perspective, none of these pieces are usable. They're not even the right shape anymore because I've modified the model, but I did just cut sections. So instead of wasting all of the material, I just wasted a little bit of material, and I went from pieces that were too loose and wouldn't hold each other together to finally pieces that are nice and tight and will stick together without glue. So my new Fusion model is ready to be cut on the laser, but all of the lamp stuff just showed up. So we're gonna make the fixture first. Now the cool thing about most light fixtures is that there are kind of some standards across the board, which means you can buy spare parts and use different light fixtures to put them together and make your own. I bought 3 of these globe lights. They come with everything you need to mount the light, but the cool thing is that they can kind of come apart and you can use them as you need to. This one has a little collar at the top of it that you can take off, and then I can tighten it back down, so it'll allow me to mount this in the bottom of my metal channel that I made. This light also comes with the cover that goes on the ceiling and the bracket to hang it, so that's good. The only other thing I needed was a way to actually hang the light, something to connect it to the ceiling. Luckily, you can buy extension tubes. These have a female thread on one end, male on the other, so you can just connect them and make this thing as long as you need it to be. And I got 4 10-inch sections for like $5. The only thing I need to do to mount all these different things in this box channel thing is drill some holes. So, I got all the holes in the bottom, I got the hole in the top, now I just need to paint it black, and then I can actually start putting it together. So there you go, I made a light out of other lights. And it's pretty much done. I gotta put the bulbs in before I can put the globes on, and then I have to tighten up the things on the back, but I also have to deal with this mess. Now, oddly enough, earlier today, I had one of those comments that was like, I was with you until you got out the 3D printer, I'm out. But honestly, a 3D printer is a really fantastic solution for something like this. In just a few minutes, I can take some really basic measurements, I can make a quick model, and print in just a couple of hours some really simple covers that will snap into place, covering this entire section. It'll keep dust out of here. If I ever need to get in there for any reason, I can snap them right off. And honestly, you're never gonna see them because they're on the inside of the light fixture. So 3D printer for the win. Now, before I can do anything with the light that I've made, I've got to have a place to hang it. Luckily, when I renovated the kitchen, I added electrical up there in the attic space, but there's no box. Adding a box to the ceiling is actually pretty easy if you've got access from above. I do have plenty of access from the attic, but I wanted to point out how I'm doing this because this light fixture is actually gonna be pretty heavy. Luckily, right where I wanted to put this, there's a joist running right across the space. So I've got something that I can attach the box to, and the box that I got is actually made for ceiling fans. It's got a metal bracket built into it, and it comes with screws, so you can put it right to the side of a joist, and it'll be a nice strong connection to hold the weight of the light that I put under it. Cutting the hole in the ceiling can be done a couple of different ways. A lot of people use hole saws and just drill up from the bottom to make the hole for the box, and that works perfectly fine. In fact, my friend April Wilkerson cut a basketball in half and put that around the bit, so when she drilled the hole into the ceiling, all of the sawdust fell into the basketball. Super smart. I'm gonna be using a drywall knife from above, from the attic space. So for me, I'm gonna hang a trash bag where the hole goes, so all of that dust just goes into the bag. Okay, well, it's not light. I mean, it is because it's a lamp. Let's go try it out. I don't know what I was really worried about because that turned out exactly like I wanted it to, and I'm super happy with how it looks. The plan was to have it change shape and view as you walk around it, and that absolutely worked out as well, although I am a little bit curious to see what it would look like if the slats weren't angled. But I'm not curious enough to do it again. I'm gonna leave it just like it is because I like it, my family likes it, and we have a light. I hope this gave you an idea for something that you could do in your house, and if it did, let me know down in the comments because I would love to hear it. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Now it's time for bloopers. So the only thing I need to do to mount all of these different things in this tube is drill some holes. Tube, channel, holder, rod, stick. The way I'm gonna do this is that, that's not the way I'm gonna do this. Sure, luckily, you can I'm gonna start over.